Welcome to American Small Business Institute. I am here again with Ryan Chute. Ryan Chute is one of the Wizard of Ads partners and a badass generally at all things sales and messaging. I didn't oversell that, did I?
You did a little.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, so what are we talking about today, Ryan?
Today we're talking about how can we hire your next top performers.
Okay.
So the challenge that a lot of companies that I work for all over the world say the same thing. I've got a real hard time finding great talent, or I'm hiring warm bodies, I'm sticking them on the floor or into the customers' homes, hoping for the best. Sometimes they get training, sometimes they don't. And at best, it's kind of a trial by fire in a lot of cases. Some of the best companies out there are putting their salespeople and their teams through rigorous training, but it's all a bit academic.
Right.
And that's hard for a person to kind of connect the dots and frankly to remember.
Right.
So when it comes to hiring top performers, it comes down to two major elements.
Okay.
One is that we have to hire off of fit. So by fit, what I mean is that there's 4 different types of fit when it comes to hiring anybody.
Okay.
It's fit with the company, fit with the managers, fit with the team, and fit with the job.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, you want the team to be working together well.
Right.
But the salesperson needs to interact with the manager really, really well because personality conflicts and whatnot. With the belief in the company and whether or not it's the right fit for the company, and then finally with the actual job, what you have to
actually
do.
be able to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw in sales is so bizarre, and it comes down to learning styles. We have these sales guys who are low learners, and we have salespeople who are high learners. The high learners typically come across as gregarious and extroverted and dynamic and excitable and full of energy. And then we have low learners, not to be confused with low IQ. These people are smart. They're just kind of slow, steady eddies. They show up to work every day. They knock out their kind of mandated amount. They don't work overtime.
Right.
These people you can rely on nonstop for a long period of time. 2 totally different preferences to how they sell stuff. Right? So if you were to put a dynamic, crazy, excitable guy and say, all right, make 400 phone calls, the guy's going to go, I can't do that, I'm terrible at it.
Right.
Well, it's probably because they're like a bird and they see something shiny and they're off to the next thing.
Right.
Where the low learner's going to sit in, they're going to come in at 8 o'clock, they're going to grind it out, they're going to smash out 400 or more phone calls, and then they're going to go home. They're going to come back the next day, they're going to do the exact same thing.
Right.
And it's not going to bother them. In fact, the more they use the script, the better they're going to get, and they're going to just crush it because that's their style, that's what they want, that's how what feels right to them to get the job done. So I read this stat recently that 97% of people hate cold calling, and yeah, I get it. A lot of people don't, but how good were you at the guitar when you first started the guitar? Or the drums? Like, we were terrible when we first started anything.
It's like that same stat for public speaking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm not a public speaker. It's like, well, have you ever done it?
Right.
Once in junior high.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and they made me.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to appreciate that, and that's where fit with job comes in.
Okay.
If the guy doesn't want to do it because of his personality preferences, that's okay. Can we get that person to still do it and still get good at it and still get results? Absolutely. We just have to understand the scope of their preference. They're not going to be the guy that comes in for the next 3 years and does this, but for a short little burst of time, absolutely. This guy's going to knock it out of the park for you, and he's going to be really excited doing it.
Right.
So it's about finding ways that fit the people. So when you go and advertise, when you're doing attraction ads for your customers, for your salespeople, and you're saying, I need somebody who's going to make 400 phone calls a month, plus be the super dynamic person that's high energy on my sales floor all day long, you're asking for 2 completely different people. You're probably going to have a hard time finding that person. Right. Because the 2 things conflict, right? So that's an example of one of the 4 different ways that we fit, and we have to look at that in all 4 levels.
So what I'm hearing is The question, how do I hire top performers? The answer is actually a lot of people are capable of being top performers if you understand how they're working.
And if you've hired them for the right job.
Right.
You didn't hire Mr. Dynamic to go in and do cold calling.
That's interesting that you're sort of settling the high performer problem back on the shoulders of the managers and the owners of the company. If there's all these metrics for a human being, there's going to be the things that filter out the people who shouldn't even be there. Mm-hmm. And then what are those things versus now it becomes a management problem on how to best get the most potential out of this human being.
So there's the 4 different levels of fit. So the question ends up really being, what are the traits and attributes that we're looking for that best meet the needs? So we have to do 2 things. One, we have to assess your existing situation. Mm-hmm. If we don't know what your company personality preferences and types and styles are, your management styles are, what the job is really asking you to do, then how can you say this is what you need?
So there could be a divide between what the owner thinks we're all doing and what the people doing all the work are like, that's not what we're actually doing.
Often the case. And those expectations that the owners and the managers don't realize they're putting on because of the 2 different personality preferences.
Right.
So we assess the job. We assess the company, we assess the management, right? And then we can fit the right people to the teams. So we do that by 25 different attributes. Now, in the beginnings of psychoanalysis, we saw all kinds of stuff out there. Probably the best one leading up to that would have been Myers-Briggs, mm-hmm. and that really does play a piece in this. Now, current human behavior analysis and psychoanalysis really comes into taking those kind of foundational things that we've learned and then finding ways that we can best fit those people based off of these 25 traits now. And we can put up the 25 traits onto the screen.
So you would have them do that in an interview?
We would do that.
Or as an applicant?
Right at the attraction level. If we can find the right fit to start with, we're going to eliminate a whole bunch of turnover. We're going to eliminate the wrong people in the wrong jobs.
So you're saying that like if you put something out on like Indeed.com that you forced them to go through the quiz or whatever information right up front so that you're filtering those people before you even call them in for an interview.
1, we identify who we are. Mm-hmm. 2, we then put out an attraction ad that finds the right fit for the right job people that appeals to them. That's what our Wizard of Ad partners in marketing do. Right. The technology that comes back off of Indeed.com shows us a fit of 3 different categories: good, better, or best, or good, bad, or ugly. Right? So at the end of the day, do we need to talk to the ugly? No, we don't. We just need to talk to the good and the better with different conditions on the questions that we ask them to see if there is a fit and there's just some sort of disconnect there.
Do you get the information about the job more from what by talking to the current staff?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to do actually a fit analysis right on the existing staff, so that you know who they are. Now,
well, because you have all this record, you're like, well, this guy's a top performer, and he filled it out this way.
Bingo. Yeah. Bingo. So you can quickly identify your top performers are this, right? And we can do this as inexpensively as Myers-Briggs, and more expensively when you start incorporating some of the online tools that we use at Wizard of Ad Partners. Now, once you've identified the right people for the job, now we're going to be able to retain them and train them the right way. We're also going to be able to lead them by metrics and performance the right way because we're speaking their language.
I love this because so often when someone says, I've got a trick in business for this thing, and what you're thinking is like, do they all wear the color blue? And that's how we know. It's like, do they all prefer a certain kind of shoe? And that's how you hire top performers?
That's right, yeah.
And the answer is no, you filter out the assholes and then you lead people. Yeah. You do the hard work to lead and manage people. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that feels fair.
And the hard work isn't as hard when you know the equation. Right. When you know that you lead people by their behaviors and actions, not by your desired outcomes, you're going to have more success because they have control over those things. When you club someone over the head with something they have no control over, it's frustrating. What do top performers do when they're frustrated? go find someplace easier to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've already agreed that you need to have to filter people on the front end, and you base that information off of your understanding of the successful people currently already operating. What's a good way to do that, even if you don't have the money to invest in a whole outside resource of psychoanalytics?
The two big things to take away. One, using things like free resources like the Myers-Briggs personality preference predictors. And the second one, follow the mindset of Brian Scudamore in his OE2 brand. He's looking for 4 things in people, the 4 H's as we call it. To be hands-on and hardworking, to be happy and hungry. Right? These 4 things are really going to identify the right people for your job in that high-level sense. From there, you can teach all the skills that you need to teach.
Right. So how do you ask questions to find out if someone's, or is that something that only happens in the interview when you get to interact with them?
No, the questions start off in the actual attraction ads.
Okay.
And you're trying to ask them questions that really kind of pull out those answers. How do you identify a happy person? By asking them a question about how they're happy. Right? How they're hands-on, how they're hardworking, right? How can we adjust those people that we actually talk to in the HR function? We do that by filtering out the right people right away.
Right.
Much easier. If we figured out who the best fit is, and then we figured out the people that we want to talk to and be in our business, we're going to have salespeople and staff that stay with us a lot longer, that we can manage and lead the right way because we're speaking their language.
Right. Yeah. What do you want to hit? Any other 3 things before you call it?
Can't remember.
Okay, that's all good. We'll end right here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time with us, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys next week.